So basically I'm just gonna twist a little bit my geometry, bend it upward. And now, as you can see, these bends, they're basically very easy to use. You know, you just drag and drop them into your geometry and they start affect your geometry. Now, the beautiful thing is that you can stack them up, you know. So now if I go, say, to a twist deformer, I can put it on top of my bend, say again, fit to parent, and I can start playing with like the angle of this bending. So, you know, let's go into that direction. Maybe in this case with the bend, what we want to do, we want to make it kind of like a little bit longer. And then we can go and scale up the geometry. So to kind of get, you see, this a little bit more of a dynamic shape, if you like. And we can put another bend if we like. Actually, I'm happy with this. Let's take a look. Yes. So now, since these are children, so to say, of this cube, all I have to do is grab the cube and move it wherever I want it to go. Now, my camera, it's already set up, so, you know, this is easy. I could turn the geometry a little bit, just to make it a little bit more interesting. Actually, let me even scale it up a little bit so that it fills up my screen a little bit more. There we go. Let me play a little bit with the twist so that I get, you know, kind of like, yeah, I like it this way. There we go. That's nice. And now what I can do, once I'm happy with the geometry itself, maybe let me give it a little bit more subdivisions in that direction so it comes out. It doesn't really matter. I'm gonna right click and say, what am I going to say? Current state to object. Now what this does, if I say hide this cube, it creates a static mesh out of these transformations. And now this mesh behaves like a normal mesh. I can go and select points and modify them. I can do some sort of like soft selection. You see? I'm sexy and I know it. It's so stupid, sorry. Okay, good. So I'm gonna get rid of the cube because I don't need it anymore, and I'm gonna use this as a base for my geometry. I'm just gonna select these faces up here. I'm gonna get rid of the soft selection. I'm gonna say empty for extrusion. Actually, I'm gonna give it a couple of subdivisions so that, you know, it comes out a bit more distributed, well distributed. I'll do the same here. Maybe I'll keep it a little bit bigger. Empty. Another couple of extrusions. And now this is where the magic happens. I'm going to use a cloner to clone like, what do you call it? Spheres around the geometry. Let's do this. I'm gonna create a couple of spheres. And I'm gonna create more than one, and I'll show you why in a second. And I'm gonna drop a cloner. This cloner, I'm gonna say I wanna have these spheres cloned. The cloner needs to be an object cloner. And as an object, we are going to use the cube. Drag and drop. Now you got all the spheres placed on the geometry. But the cloner by default says the distribution it's going to be vertex. We change it to surface. So then now the cloners are distributed on the surface. As you can notice, the size of the sphere is really too big. So I'm gonna scale them down all together. And I'm going to say to the cloner, please give me like 1,500 clones. This might be enough. Let's take a look. So first of all, I'm gonna hide the cube from the rendering itself. So this, I'm gonna have to double click this little stoplight down here, make it red. And I'm gonna start my Octane live dialog, which is right here. Click render. Now bear in mind that I have no lights inside the scene. Oh, and one thing that I can do to speed up a little bit the workflow is to say render instances. There you go. So as you can see, the geometry is already rendering, which is, cool. I'm gonna leave it here on the side so that, we'll see everything in real time. Although the cloner might slow down a little bit the viewport. It's, Cinema4d doesn't handle that well. A lot of geometries unless you have a super powerful computer. But even if you do have a super powerful computer, a lot of things that are MoGraph related can slow down your computer a little bit. So now what I did here, I made 3 different spheres, although I could have done the same with 1 sphere, okay? Because if I go and delete these 3 spheres, basically the result doesn't change. I still have like this amount of clones. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to again copy the spheres, and I'm going to assign to each single sphere a different material. And as you can see now, I have 3 different materials placed on this element, which is, cool. Now, one thing that I want to do, I want to create a background, but I want to have a background with some sort of like soft shadow on it. Now, the easiest and fastest way to do this is to create a so-called limbo. I'm gonna deactivate now the cloner to navigate a little bit faster my scene. And I'm gonna drop a plane to which I'm going to reduce the distribution, say move towards the bottom, T to scale up the geometry, C to convert it into a mesh. I'm gonna extrude the back. Maybe I'm gonna make the whole thing a little bit larger. Now I'm gonna drop this inside a subdivision surface. In this way, I'm going to have a smooth geometry. But as you can see, the geometry is getting rounded on top because of the lack of subdivision. So let's go and fix that. KL to create some knife loops. Maybe I'm gonna put a couple also down here and here to have this a little bit tighter. Let's go back to our view. Great. Now all I have to do is drop a material onto this subdivision surface and click render. Oops, I deactivated my cloner. Let's go back. And also I need to learn with Octane to work with this live preview because so far I was not used to it. But there we go. Now, the cool thing about Octane is that, it's very simple to create materials. Like, if you want to create a material, like all these materials that I've done with the reflections and so on, they're pretty easy to generate. You just go to shaders, C4d Octane, and you can pick like, the first material, Octane material. Now, if you go and look into the Octane material, the basic settings, such as, diffuse settings or specular and so on, are or the different types of materials, sorry, rather than settings, are accessible via this little switch up here, diffuse, glossy. So most of the time, I'm guessing we're gonna find ourselves working with glossy materials because each single material has some sort of glossy effect, right? Now, managing a glossy material, it's very simple. You go to the diffuse to change the color of the material itself. So say, I work with the HSV values. The first thing that you have to do, you have to define the saturation. If you have saturation 0, you cannot move the hue value. So I'm gonna bring this to 100%, and now I can change the color slider. So, let's make one blue just to test. Now, the specularity, here it's called roughness, as far as I understood. So, you know, if we want to change the way light scatter on top of the surface, what we need to do is go to the roughness float value and change this. So as you can see now, this is a little bit softer and looks a little bit more matte. And then in the index value, we can change the reflectivity itself. This is, I'm guessing it's a little bit like an index of reflection. So, you know, let's bring this to something like 2, and you can start to see it gets a lot more reflective. Let's just replace one of these material slots. There you go. And you can see it updating in real time. Now, as soon as you're happy with your image, all you have to do is clicking the render button. Oh, by the way, one thing that I've realized, and this is something that I really like about this software, is that it renders even if I don't put any light inside. Now, I don't know what they use, if they use the default lights of Cinema4d, but one of the lights that I've been finding myself working with all the time is the sky. Basically, all you do is drop in a sky, right click, C4D Octane tags, environmental tags, and now you get a, what I'm guessing it's a dome light around your geometry. And that's it. When you're done, click render. Now, bear in mind that I'm still very new at this Octane game. I am a Cinema4d V-Ray user, but I'm enjoying a lot working with this software. And as always, you know, if you guys know any good resources or things, you know, that I should know, or have links to tutorials that you have done and you know already, feel free to link them to me, because, you know, I'm having a lot of fun. Hi Mike, how's it going? Hi Elisa, hi Luca. Okay, very nice to see all of you in here. Anyway, I don't know if you guys are Cinema4d users, if you are interested at all in this software. I understand that a lot of people work with 3ds Max, you know, this is a little bit of the industry standard, but I kind of want to do a lot more of these videos, because I realized also from a creativity point of view, now by doing this 36 days of type challenges, that you can run out of ideas relatively quickly when doing, you know, this type of work. Let me show you some of the things that I've done, so that, you know, you can have an idea. So basically, these are all either past or future experiments. This was the letter I from yesterday. Now I got the J. Yeah, and I'm already like thinking about tomorrow, what am I going to do? I had this idea for the R. I kind of wanted to do something a little bit more, I don't know, freehand, artistic, if that makes any sense. There we go, but I'm struggling a little bit. But, you know, I'm keeping it as a sketch, because it might be something that worth exploring again next time. Anyway, guys, I think that this is everything for today's stream. I apologize again for this OBS Studio. It's giving me just, you know, issues. I have to get ready, because in 1 hour I'm going to have an interview for the D2 conference channel, which we are going to pre-record and hopefully put online soon. If you haven't checked it out already, we have a very active archivist channel where we just put interviews with the best companies from the field. Yeah, and that's it, I guess. Yeah, we'll talk hopefully tomorrow. Thanks a lot for watching. See you next time.